Hi, my name's Jonathan Hicks, I'm back at the Dice Cup, and today I'm joined by...
Andy.
Peter. Dean. Glenn.
And we've just finished playing Onward to Venus. Now, you lay all these different planets out on the table here, so we've got Mercury, Venus, I think it's hiding under there, Earth, etc. And there's a few other planets and moons and things over there. And essentially, it's like an area control game of sorts. So you take a faction, so in this case I was red, and you've got spaceships for transporting things around, you've got infantry and tanks and things, and you're kind of trying to build mines on planets and factories on planets. The factories let you produce more units, and the mines obviously generate income. Money's quite important. You can use the money to build more units at the factories. Now, so far, you'd expect that you'd then be traveling around fighting each other and trying to conquer territory. And it doesn't really work like that. You have these tiles that are dealt out. Dean, could you just sort of stick a couple on the planets? So at the start of each round, we stick these tiles on. They may let you draw more cards. There's cards that will add kind of fighting strength or other special abilities. This gives you a free action that lets you move one of your infantries about. Some of them, though, will be like this. The only way you can actually build a factory on the planet is if one of these tiles is placed on the planet, and then you can use your troops to turn this into a factory, effectively. Or there might be a mine token like this, but the mines have to be conquered, if you like. There's a certain strength. So in terms of the fighting, the only fighting that really goes on is trying to conquer these mine things. And the way you do that is you count up your military strength. So let's say I was using these guys here. So I've got a spaceship and 3 infantry. Each of these is worth 1 attack point. I've got to overcome 3, and you fight by rolling these 3 dice. And it's a little bit strange the way the combat works. You take the highest number and subtract the lowest number. So actually this is a great roll, because 3 minus 2 is only 1. So I'd only be adding 1 to the strength of the mine. So I've got to defeat 4, and as it happens I've got 4. If I didn't have enough, then I could play extra cards like this one, which would potentially add the little orange fireworks things are extra strength. But if instead I'd rolled this, for example, that's a 0, which means now the mine is 3 minus 0 is 3, so it would go all the way up to a 6, and it's a lot tougher. But also, each skull that you roll will kill one of your units. So that's how the combat works, but most of the time you're only fighting against the game, if you like, trying to defeat these mines and things. You're not really fighting each other. At the end, there's only 3 rounds in the game, and one little nice thing I will mention is that when you've got nothing else to do, on your turn you're kind of taking an action either by building or moving your ships around. You take one of these cubes off, which helps you get to take a card at the same time, but when the last cube is taken, that triggers the end of the round, so there's this ticking clock of when it's going to end. After 3 rounds the whole game ends, and the critical thing then is you're comparing how much income people have got from mines. So if we built a mine like this, you see this generates 3 income here. If you built any factories, they also generate a bit of income. But then at the end, the person with the most income on a planet is getting 10 points, second most is 7, third most is 4, and the different planets you can see have different numbers on in terms of how valuable they are. But crucially, it doesn't matter how many troops you've got there, it's only the income. So you kind of want troops to conquer the mines and get the factories, but at the end of the day, it's only the mines and the factories that really matter. Alright, what do we think?
I quite liked it. It's quite an interesting card-driven game. In the third round, I was just trying to end the game because I sort of like half wanted to see Earth burn and see how that worked, if that would happen. But it's sort of other people took the crises.
I should probably just explain that there are various crisis tiles that might appear like this, and depending on how many there are, there will different crises that might take place on different planets. So some of them kind of cost you factories or resources and things, but in fact if Earth ever gets 4 of these crisis tiles, then the robots take over the world and we all lose.
Yeah, sort of also in the last round I sort of felt like I didn't have a huge amount that I wanted to do. So it was one of the driving factors for taking the cubes. I probably could have done a little bit more than I did in the last round, but it got to a point where I just didn't think that taking anything would have benefited me much over everything else. So the stuff I could have taken, I already had a good presence there anyway. But yeah, I quite liked it. I was quite happy to play it again.
Okay, Peter?
There's a large amount of what I consider randomness. The combat, you can go from having virtually no troops and successfully taking something to having a massive doom stack and still failing. Because it all depends on whether you roll a low number or a high number on 2 different dice. The game relies very heavily on the cards, which I hadn't realised until halfway through the game. So unless you're collecting cards to then increase your abilities, you're kind of limited on what you can do each round. The sort of the doom that Andy was talking about, it's a case of, I felt that if you weren't doing very well in the game, then just let everyone crash and burn and everybody lose, because you can kind of tell how well you're going to do, because it's very easy to work out your points. Say if you come in 4th or 5th, what do you care if everybody loses, because you're kind of losing anyway. It's very, very novel, but as I said, I don't like the randomness of it, because it is very heavy on the cards rather than what your troop amassing are, because I've had large armies I've ended up doing nothing because the tiles didn't come out right, and I've seen players with virtually nothing take what they needed because just on that die roll.
Okay, Dean?
Yeah, I like it. I mean, taking the point Pete said, you can moderate the randomness. You can still be very lucky, but there are a lot of cards that allow you to, in effect, seriously mitigate the being very unlucky. And the other thing with the combat is that actually, if you don't have enough combat, you can just say, oh, in that case, I'm not going to do it. You may still take the deaths, but you don't lose your cards or anything like that. So you can always have the situation where if everything goes really badly on the combat roll, you just, in effect, have just missed one action that turn. So I quite like it. The scores are always quite tight. So you can actually swing from being sort of like 3rd or 4th to winning just in the very last bit of the game. The only thing I would say is the time it says it takes on the box is a complete and utter lie. It claims to be an hour and a half to 2. With new players in there, you're looking at 2.5, and probably a little bit more than that with the rules explanation. I think with players that have all played it before and playing quick, you can get it probably down to an hour and a half to 2, because, as Andy says quite often in the last turn, there isn't actually that much you want to do, so the last turn can go quite quickly. I like it.
All right, Glenn?
Yeah, I quite enjoy it. I like it. It has a theme. Themes are always good as far as I'm concerned. I'm fine with the combat, because as long as you kind of plan what you want to do, then you help mitigate the risk. I think it's really simple to learn the basic mechanics. The strategy might take a bit longer to learn, but in general, it's a game that I, as a non-experienced gamer, am quite happy to sit down and have a go at. And I mean, yeah, speaking of close, I mean, last was and first were only about 12 points apart. So, yeah.
Rating out of 10?
6 until I play it again.
Okay, Dean?
I'd probably give it a 7, and the only reason I'm not edging to an 8, I'm not sure exactly how much replayability there will be. I think this is one of those games that will come out sort of like every couple of months or so, otherwise I'd have scored it higher.
Okay, Peter?
I'm going to give it a lukewarm 6, partly because of the fact the downtime in this game is very, very long with 5 players.
Yeah. Andy?
Yeah, I'll give it about a 7.
Okay.
Sort of say it's a game I'd quite happy to play again, and sort of see where my rating went from there.
Okay. Yeah, I liked it. I think the comments are very accurate. It's slow. That's the only thing I would say, as Peter was saying. It's slower than you expect it to be. It looks like quite a light game, but really there's a lot to think about. Often when it comes to your turn, it's like, oh, he's just done this thing which changes what I was going to do now because he nicked the tile I wanted. So it can be often difficult to plan ahead. But I really enjoy the mechanisms. It does feel very unique, and I like the fact that you're vying for these different territories, but it's not about combat. You're not killing other people. It's more like a race. You're racing to get the resources on the planet. And I really enjoyed it. I think I'll be on a 7 out of 10. All right, thanks for watching. That was Onward to Venus.